So before this video, I just want to do a disclaimer, because I did actually get the water pump out, the old water pump, and I did change it in the car, and the car is working as well as it did before, and it was a success. But I just wanted to do a disclaimer, because this is not an easy job. This job is critical. This job is critical. This part is a critical part, and you're gonna have to get into critical components of the vehicle. Doing critical work means you can do critical errors, destroying your car. So I would say that if this is your first time working on a car, you haven't done even a wheel change before, you don't really know how to safely remove bolts that's sitting very tight, you don't have an assortment of bits, star bits, and all types of bits to remove bolts, all kinds of bolts, at least try to get a little bit of assistance from somebody that knows about working on engines, because you can actually destroy your car. And I just wanted to put it out there, because it might seem in the video that I'm a complete fool and I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm doing. This is the first time I'm doing this, but it's not the first time I'm working on an engine, and it's not the first time I'm working on machinery. So I could do it in a very methodical way, in a scientific way, because I'm actually not an idiot, even if it might seem like that. And yeah, be careful when you do this. As you can see, the car is put together again, and it is working. You'll see in the video. But just as a disclaimer, have all you need tools. If you don't have the tools, you need the right tools to do this job. If you don't have the right tools, don't try to force it. You need to have time to do this work. You need to have the car in a place where you can move, where it can leave. You can leave it for a long time. For me, it took a day to disassemble and another day to reassemble, and also an additional day to order the part. So it took a total of three days to do this for me. And because I'm a beginner, I'm a novice. But just be careful. I just wanted to put out the disclaimer. And also you're going to have to touch the timing belt of the car. If you're gonna do this job, I would advise that you also get new belts for your car, new timing belt, new serpentine belts, and all the belts, all kinds of drive belts. Get all new belts if you're gonna do this job. And also check up on the pulleys. Check that the pulleys aren't loose. Check that the pulleys aren't wiggling when you do this job. So do some diagnostics, all kind of diagnostics that you can do, and look at things that you can't see when it's not apart. So without further ado, one more thing, by the way. If you actually do need to do this job, I didn't show every part of the video because I didn't have time to film everything and set everything up and make sure that the angle was right, that the lighting was right. I didn't have time for it. I was on a tight schedule, so I couldn't show the whole process of taking everything apart. I just showed the most critical parts. But I didn't include removing the timing belt and the pulleys. If you're gonna do this and you just have to do this, and you're not sure how to do this, When you're removing the timing belt, this is very important. Make sure that the timing, the above and the below cog wheels or pulleys on the timing belt are in the exact same position when you're putting the new, when you have put the new timing belt on or the old timing belt back on. When you release the tension from the timing belt, this might move the pulleys or the shaft or the cog wheels, whatever you want to call it. It will maybe move it a little bit, so it's important that you're putting some sort of mark so that you can see what position the belt was or the pulleys, the cog wheels were in when you took the belt off. So that when you put the belt back on, you can do adjustments so that the marks line up with the old marks that you put on before you took the belt off and before you release the tension of the belt. We did this by actually chiseling in markings into the metal of the engine block and onto the pulley or the cog wheel. So we chiseled that in with a hammer and a chisel so that we can see exactly what position it was in. Now, without further ado, let's get into the video. I shouldn't have parked the car like this. Where's it coming from? What the hell? This is down also. What is that? What the hell? So you can see here there's a rubber thing, or there's a thing holding it in place here. And I'm gonna try to, this is actually the first video I'm filming this project. We're gonna have it in here and actually try to pry that out. So it's gonna bend back, it's gonna bend back. That's what's gonna allow you to separate this hole so you can get the bumper out. Now if you have this thing here, you might have to remove that as well, because we're gonna remove this grill down here. Okay, so here's the car right now. The bumper is removed. So don't do what I just did with all those plastic tabs. They're not supposed to go off. What you need to do is, there's two screws from underneath of the bumper that screws into these shock absorbers here. And there's 3 screws on this side, 3 screws, one up here, one here, one there, and the same on the other side. That's what you need to do, and then you can take the bumper off. I would advise also to take the fog lights off if you have the fog lights. Here's the rear bumper. So before you remove the bumper, take these fog lights out, because it will make it a lot easier to take the bumper off. Here you have the bumper, and these are the plastic tabs I was messing around with, but they were not supposed to be taken off. These plastic tabs are supposed to be permanent. They're supposed to be in here, but thankfully it didn't really matter. It's a little loose now, it is, but those plastic tabs wasn't the only things holding it in. We got these hose clamps here, or what you call hose holders or whatever. They also are holding this metal part in. These parts here are holding the metal in. This is holding the metal in. I fortunately have one of these on this side left. And yes, so that's what happens when you work on cars and you don't know what you're doing. But fortunately it looks like I could screw some screws in here and secure this somewhat. Still, yeah, this was a big work, big job right here. Not really, it wasn't really a big job. I just didn't know what I was doing. But don't be afraid to try things out, guys. Don't be afraid. I was very surprised to see that there was a whole assembly with probably some pumps and everything here for windshield wiper fluid for the headlights, but it doesn't work at all. And I suspect this is what made my car leak the other day. It was leaking windshield wiper fluid, but I didn't know why. I didn't know that I actually had these things here because they didn't work at all. Yeah, so now we need to try and remove the radiator. We'll see what happens here. We'll see what happens. We need to get a good look here how this looks, because we're going to remove stuff here. This rubber has a screw. This hose sits here. We're going to remove these probably. Here, I don't know what this is. Looks like a sensoring thing. There was a sensor here, probably a thermometer sitting through here. Air temperature thermometer probably. This side, rubber thing. Got a screw down here. These sitting through here. I think these are hard lines right there. Okay, this is for you that has a not a Volkswagen, an Audi A4 B5 front wheel drive 1.8 naturally aspirated Audi from the 2000s or the millennial shift, and you have this kind of water pump in your car and you're wondering how to get it out. This is how it looks from below. This is what you can see from below. If you see it, if you look at it in your car, it looks like that from below. If you know you have this kind of water pump, how do you take it out, you wonder? How do you take this out and how do you change it? So I've been working on my car here. As you can see, it's been a very involved job, but I got myself a new water pump, and as you can see, this water pump is not looking the same, but it's because the water pump is actually bigger than what you can see. This is the part that you saw before. It sits on top of this part here that sits bolted into the car. And how do you take it out? Well, the water pump is deep inside the car, behind the timing belt and behind some rolls here. And you actually have to take out the oil pump pulley here that's being driven with the cams and with the drivetrain here. Then you can get in here, and you can see you can kind of easily remove this side of the pump, but getting all of it out is much harder. You got this hose down here that is hard to get out. You get another hose back here sitting to the pump. I can zoom in for you. This hose there with the clamps here sits into the water pump in the back there. And how do you get it out? Well, you actually get it out by pulling it this way. All of it needs to go this way, and for that to happen, there is some bolts that's sitting through this piece here. 2 bolts here and 2 bolts here. That is what's holding this pump in behind this piece, or in between this piece and the actual engine block. So that's how it's sitting there. And here you can see how the new part looks. You can see those bolts that I mentioned. They match up to those bolts that I've taken out there. So yeah, the hard part is then to pull this out this way. I used a pry bar here just so you can see. This hole here was through this metal piece here, and if I use this pry bar, you can see that it's supposed to move. Wait a minute. I'm shaking a lot, but it's coming out front ways. That's how you take that water pump out of the Audi B5 all-wheel, front-wheel drive. This is the 5V engine, yeah, and you have to take the generator out as well. To do that, you might be able to reach those things without taking out the whole front, but I was doing some other work here as well. Yeah, you can see the engine layout here. See if it's the same as your engine. 1.8 liter front wheel drive from the 2000s. It is an Audi, as you can see. Yeah, so if you're having problem with the water pump on these vehicles, it's gonna be sandwiched in the engine. I hope that helps. Okay, so I did an additional thing. I removed this hose, I don't know what you call it, that was attached to the hose right here. You could actually screw this out because it was interfering with the metal on this attachment thing. I think maybe removing this attachment thing will make this job a lot easier, but you can remove this thing that sits here. Alright, so I got it out. It was colliding everywhere here, but what I did was I loosened these 2 last screws on this metal part here, and with that I could get some good movement. It's moving, and with that little movement here, hope you can see that it's moving here, I was able to get this out. So now you can see how this part is, this part here with that removed. I wouldn't recommend, I would say, just keeping this part in the car, removing this outer piece, putting it on there, just to get an easy job, because as you can see there's a thermostat in there that might be bad, and there's also a lot of debris in here. So yeah, the thing comes out from the front. You can see where it was sandwiched in between this arm here, but I think the easiest way would be to just remove this whole arm. But the thing is, it's connected to some hoses and stuff here, and if you remove it, you got more work for it cut out for you. Anyways, that's it. That's how you remove that. And now we just have to put it all back together with new parts. And also, removing that nipple was actually an important part, because this new pump doesn't have that nipple, and you need to transplant that over. Now I don't know where I put it. Hang on. Okay, here it is. I found it. So the old nipple that was sitting here, that I removed to be able to remove the pump, it needs to go here, because you don't get that with the new pump. So yeah, don't lose it, don't break it. Here we go. Det finns ström, service, parkeringsbromsen, dörren öppen. Vi ska bara se vad som händer när man stänger dörren, om det står okej. Det brukar stå så. Ska det okej? Då så. Oj oj oj, på 2000 på 200 000 kilometer. Det var då allt hände. Wow. Ja. Som slog i, eller?
Ja, jag drar ju runt den. Sakta, så hade pressat olja ur den. Och ventilspelet var för stort.
Ja.
När oljetrycket kom upp, så slutade och knäppade.
Vet du vad? Det här, den darrar inte så mycket som den brukade. Det låter inte så mycket som det brukar låta. Så den är bättre än det var. Oj oj oj.